The information discussed in this PILCast episode are merely opinions and do not constitute formal policy or legal guidance of any kind.
Hello, and welcome to our 20th PILCast episode, the video blog where we talk about important federal procurement innovation concepts in 10 minutes or less. We guarantee it. I'm David Jablonski with the Department of Homeland Security's Procurement Innovation Lab.
And I'm Monica Taylor, also with the Department of Homeland Security Procurement Innovation Lab, also known as the PIL.
Now, in this episode, Monica and I are going to talk about why government teams should share their evaluation documentation after awarding their procurements. And we're going to share success stories from two teams at DHS, and they found when using this very technique. Now, you can share the evaluation documentation as part of the unsuccessful offer notifications or as part of the post-award debriefing or brief explanation process.
So our first story is a team from the Transportation Security Administration, TSA. Now, the TSA team had a FAR 15.3 requirement to establish a $90 million single award IDIQ. Now, they had a two-phase procurement with an advisory down select, and there were 6 vendors that participated in the second phase of the requirement. Now, after issuing the unsuccessful offer notices, all of the vendors, even the awarded vendor, asked for a debriefing from the government. The team shared each of the vendors' evaluation documentation as a part of the debriefing process. So the team scheduled an oral debriefing with the vendors and provided a PowerPoint document, which included the full evaluation documentation to each of the vendors so they could read it ahead of the meeting and ask any questions they had on their evaluation. Now, after completing the debriefing process and appreciating the team's level of transparency regarding the evaluation, no protests were received.
That's right. And another approach that teams have used is where they share the evaluation documentation in the unsuccessful offer notices. Now, this proactive approach was used by a team at the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, or USCIS. Now, this USCIS team, they had a FAR 16.505 two-phase procurement with a firm down select. Now, after each respective phase, rather than waiting for the vendors to request the debriefing, the contracting officer proactively provided debriefing information in the unsuccessful offer notice before the vendors even had a chance to request a debriefing. Now, with this process, the CO also provided vendors with a specified time to ask any questions about the evaluation process, and there were none. In fact, one of the vendors actually called the CO to thank him for simply providing the information without having to ask. And after all was said and done, none of the vendors filed a protest with either phase for that $45 million task order.
So as you can see, these are two great stories of ways to share evaluation documentation with vendors. Now, when it comes to documentation, you can share the vendor's respective technical evaluation documentation, a redacted source selection decision, or both. Here at the PIL, we encourage teams to be transparent with their evaluation process with the vendors. So this allows you to build trust and to demonstrate that your team made a sound decision and shows that there's nothing to hide, just like the teams at TSA and USCIS. This will only help your agency in the long run, as it's going to help vendors improve their proposals on future requirements. When we help the vendor community, it will only make future proposals stronger, which results in greater support to our mission.
That's right. And sharing your technical evaluation documentation also reduces the protest risk with vendors. Vendors often protest procurements because they want to attain the full evaluation documentation from the government to see if there are any areas that they can protest. So rather than trying to synopsize or the evaluation in a debriefing or brief explanation, simply provide the vendors with the respective technical evaluation documentation or the redacted source selection documentation. And if a vendor protests your procurement, you'll have to share that with them anyways, right? So preemptively sharing this information makes it clear to vendors that they would not gain any additional information by protesting the award.
And there's nothing in the FAR that prevents government teams from sharing a vendor's evaluation documentation. If your team is sharing the source selection decision document, as David mentioned, be sure to redact any sensitive information prior to sharing the documentation. If you would like more information, recommendations for the debriefings or the brief explanation of award process, be sure to check out PILCast episode number 3 and PIL webinar number 58. Both of these links can be found in the description box below. And you can also find additional information on this technique on the periodic table of acquisition innovations at www.fai.gov, which is also linked in the description.
That's right. Now, that about does it for this episode on another procurement innovation technique. Let us know in the comments if you've used this technique before, or if you have any other procurement innovation techniques that you would like us to discuss. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, share this out with your friends, and hit that notification button so you get all of our latest updates and PILCast episodes. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on our next PILCast episode.